Okay, so evaluating expressions. This can be okay. Where you need to be careful of is in a couple areas. One is try to pay attention to detail of what I'm going to show you, and you'll see that in a minute. The other thing is order of operations. And some of you still get a little out of kilter with your order of operations. So you have to be careful here. Because in reality, almost every problem is an order of operations problem, and these especially. So let's go ahead and write a few things. A numerical expression, what is that? It's not that big of a deal. It's simply mathematical operations. Mathematical operations performed on numbers. Somebody raise their hand and tell me an operation. Yes. Addition is an operation, right, Edward? Multiplication is an operation. Division is an operation. Subtraction is an operation. Absolute value is an operation, right? So operations. And as you can see on the left, we have a numerical expression. We have addition and multiplication going on. Again, be careful. You got to do the multiplication first, right? So the next line is a -3 plus an 18. And now we can finish that out, right? Not a hard problem. Everybody looks at that and says 3 negatives and 18 positives leaves you 15 positives, right? Brendan, did you find them? Okay. So positive 15 would be the solution there, right? Not a big deal. Over to the right, again, we've got a situation where order of operations, there are no exponents. We're going to deal with the division. Be careful on this. It is so much safer to think of this as a -8 divided by a -2. Now, I'll show you both ways. Right, Nathan? So, if you think of it as a -8 divided by a -2, you get a +4. And hopefully you agree. I can now deal with the absolute value of -7. So, Julia, what's the absolute value of -7? 7, correct, because it's 7 away from 0, and the answer is 11, right? Let me show you the same problem with another way of thinking of it. So let's suppose you only think of an 8 divided by a -2. A +8, if you're thinking that way, divided by a -2 is a -4, and here's where you'll be. 7 minus a -4. You have to still get to 11 because we know minus and minus is a plus. But again, in my thinking, in my brain, I like to just say negative divided by a negative is a positive. I got a +4. If you're careful, you'll end up in the same place if you're careful. What do students do a lot? They just disregard this negative sign. So when they think this second way, when they're thinking this way, what I see a lot of students write is -4, and that's it. And they completely forget about that negative sign that they haven't dealt with, right? Because if you're only going to circle the 8 and not that negative sign, then you're doing 8 divided by -2, -4, but you haven't dealt with this yet. I think that's more dangerous, but you can do it that way if you're careful. The point is, you got to be careful. Don't lose your negatives. It's what causes a lot of issues in algebra. All right, number 2, algebraic expression. Okay, so we just changed from a numerical expression to an algebraic expression. Somebody raise their hand and tell me what the difference would be. Nia? That's exactly it. So mathematical operations involving numbers and variables. Numbers and variables. And a lot of times I'll do apostrophe S at the end because it could just be one variable or multiple variables. And as you can see, the left expression, 3n, this 3n plus 11 is a algebraic expression. What happened to my pen there? I don't know. And this 5x squared divided by 7 is an algebraic expression, right? Both algebraic expressions. And in reality, there's nothing we can do to either one of those in that current state. All right, so let's get down to this word evaluate. So I did it in red so it'll stand out to you guys. Because what will happen is on a quiz, on a test, on a homework problem, it's going to say evaluate. And they expect you as a student to now know what that means. And all it means is to evaluate an expression means to grab your green, substitute. Substitute. S-U-B-S-T-I-T-U-T-E. Substitute in the value or values for the variables if present and simplify. So you put in the values that they tell you for the variable, that's all. And then you simplify your answer. So when you see that word evaluate, so should I have somebody on a quiz raise their hand and say, Mr. Scarfy, evaluate, does that mean I have to figure it out? Well, I'm telling you what evaluate means, right? And you should know that it means to substitute in the values and then simplify. So let's do a few so you're confident in what we're talking about. Now here's one of these little details that's important. Where the variable is, I like to put a parentheses in its place. So I'm taking my green, I'm putting a green parentheses, I'm going to take my black, and do you agree we still have a negative and a 7? So I'm underneath the original. Where the x was, I put that parentheses. And now I go back and put in where the x is located at -4. Now the trick is this. It's a very good habit to put those parentheses where the variable is located. And they will save you many a wrong answer. Because without that parentheses, you're going to get confused as to whether you're multiplying, whether you're subtracting, whether you're adding. You're going to get goofed up. Now, on this one, it's not so hard. So I want everybody to think of the answer here. And on 3, I want you to tell me the solution to this, right? We have just done the substitution. Now we need to simplify it. In other words, add up the numbers now. All right, so on 3, out loud, give me your solution. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. All right, great. I heard a lot of -11s, 4 negatives, 7 more negatives, 11 negatives, right? Easy. No sweat. We know how to do that. So number 10 is a pretty easy problem. But again, I want you to get used to the principle of where the variable is, stick a parentheses. And then into that parentheses, sub in the value of that variable. So that's what we've got. All right, so again, I want you to think what you believe the answer to this problem will be. What is the answer? We have to finally finish it by simplifying. So on 3, give me your solution. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. All right, great. So 10 positives and 17 negatives leaves you 7 negatives, right? And we're just rolling on, not a problem. All right, well, here's where things start getting a little interesting. So look at C. We got a -9 minus n if n equals -5. All right, you try that one. Go ahead and see what you can do. Try to pay attention to detail. All right, on 3, give me your answer. 1, 2, 3.
-4.
Okay, good. So a lot of you correctly dealt with that minus the minus, right? Because there's the minus from the original problem and the negative from the -5. And so you correctly assessed that minus a minus is a plus. 9 negatives and 5 positives leaves you 4 negatives. All right, so be careful. Let's change up D. Take your black. Let's make this a -3x just for the fun of it. Let's make it a -3x and go ahead and solve that out. Go ahead and do D. Go ahead and solve D. You got it? Got D? So let me see your hands. How many of you got -15? -15. Nobody got negative 15? Really? Awesome. Because that's the common mistake on this. So does that mean you're actually doing what I'm asking you to do? It's remarkable. I have students that are paying attention to detail. So let's see if you did get the right answer. How about negative 4? How many got negative 4? Awesome. All right, awesome. Look, here's what happens with people that don't do the parentheses. At times, D will look like this. Look right up above here. When they go to substitute, they'll do this. And what would that be? That would be negative 15, right? But that's not correct. It is negative 4 because the negative 3 is multiplied times the x. Keep your parentheses. Down the road, we're going to start dealing with, and I don't think we do today, we'll start dealing with exponents and all things like that. And if you'll remember the parentheses method, it'll serve you well the rest of your math career. All right, let's do a few more. All right, so E, all right, not a big deal. Just make the substitution. CH, what do you think? How many agree negative 25? Uh-oh, Ashley was going to go up and then she pulled away. 25. How many agree with 25? Ah, there we go. All right, good. Caught yourself, Colby. That's good. All right, so 25 negative times a negative is a positive. Right, you end up with 50 divided by 2. And so 50 divided by 2 is 25. I really should have showed that in between step here. Right, that was a 50 divided by 2 for 25. Okay, so does it matter? Is it any big deal if there's more than one thing to sub in? It doesn't matter. Just keep track of your substitutions. Go ahead and try F. Just keep track of your subbing. All right, so on this one, what is our A? A 4. What is our B? A negative 2. Don't forget you got negative 7. All right, so we got multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times a negative 2 is a negative 24. 24 negatives and 7 more negatives. 31 negatives. How many got the right answer? Awesome. All right, good job. And if you didn't, did you figure out what you did wrong, Christina? Couldn't see the, oh. It's on your paper. Look on your paper. All right, we're doing our notes. It's right there. All right, what do we got? A few left? A couple more. All right. Let's see. G's going to be easy, but go ahead and try it. See what you can do with G. Sir. All right, on 3. Oh, it's up there. I thought I froze it. How about negative 24? Yes, I thought I froze the board, but I didn't. What? You don't like that? Whoa! No Kool-Aid for you. Awesome. Do you guys know what the Kool-Aid thing is yet? All right, Kool-Aid is nobody should blindly listen to anybody because nobody's infallible except the Lord, all right? Everybody else makes mistakes. And way back in the 70s, there was this guy that claimed to actually be Jesus Christ. And he had a bunch of followers. And he said, we're going to go to Ghana, East Africa. And they all went there, had a big compound. They were living there. And he told them it was God's will that they all drink poison and die. And the poison was in the Kool-Aid. And guess what? A bunch of them drank the Kool-Aid. Almost all of them drank the Kool-Aid and died. Because he said to do it, and they did it. So when I say don't drink the Kool-Aid, every once in a while question what I do, because sometimes I might make a mistake, and therefore question it, right? And you did, and that's correct, because 18 negatives and 8 more negatives is 26 negatives. Christina. Ghana, East Africa. Ghana, East Africa, yeah. Back in the 70s, I believe it was. All right, let's do the last one. So you can be careful here. You've got some order of operations issues. Right, we're just sub in. My -4 in for the A, my 5 in for the B. So let's see, where am I at right now? And surely we wouldn't leave the answer like that, right? And finish it up and say the answer is -3. Right? These aren't too hard. Just keep track of things. Show an original. Always show your substitution step. Show a step or two of work where it's needed. Circle your final answer. All right, so 2 phrases, 2 terminologies, 2 terms, other terminologies. So you got 2 terms here. Numerical expression, not a big deal. That's a bunch of numbers and operations. Algebraic expression, numbers and variables with some operations. And remember, to evaluate means sub in the values and simplify the answer. All right.